Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome to Michigan International Speedway, our second visit to Michigan, as we're getting set for the Firekeepers Casino 400 playoff race number 2, race 28 of the PCSRA Winston Cup Series. Getting ready for the middle race of the round of 16 and getting ready to set ourselves up on what should be a doozy of an elimination race if we get to that point for next week. Should be a lot of fun and also should be an interesting race here today. J TwoTwo starts on the pole position. He comes in this race 2 points below the cut line at 13th in the standings. Alongside of him is Melissa Cooper, who ended up winning last week's race at Michigan. Jumps up to 25th in the points. The problem is it was not enough for her to get herself into the top 30 in points to have her win count for a spot into this season's chase for the championship, but she would still like to go to victory lane for a second time here this season. Ben Erickson in row number 2, 36 in the points, just trying to find victory lane, and Jerry Harvick alongside. Harvick is 11 points above the cut line, situated 8th in the playoff standings. As you look at the rest of the starting lineup for today's race here, a couple of our playoff drivers needing some good results. A couple of drivers having new paint schemes. Marty Stephen running the Irwin Tool colors on his Ford. And I know Brenda Eveling also has a new paint scheme she's also running, as we're going to get set for 30 laps of racing. Let's go over the playoff standings presented by Golden Crowd. This is what the margins are between the drivers that are above or below the cut line. So here they are. Ben Tennyson is the points leader. He is 40 points above the cut line. 34 above is A Crenshaw, who is second. T Montgomery is third. He is a total of 29 points above the cut line. Ashley Reynolds is 423 above. 22 above is Hannah Smith. Elaine Aurora is 21 above in sixth. Cody Smart dropped all the way down to seventh. He is 15 points above the cut line. Eighth is J Harvick, 11 points above the cut line we just mentioned. Ninth is P Albanus, 8 points above. Josephine Bouvier is 10th, 7 points above the cut line. Ashley Horton is 3 points above the cut line in 11th. Kevin Joseph is 2 points above the cut line in 12th. Jacob TwoTwo, our pole sitter, 2 points below the cut line. Samantha Grainger, who I mistakenly said Cody Smart, she is 3 points below the cut line. Betty Barrett is 7 points below the cut line. And Vanko Seaman is 15 points below the cut line. Annie Thomas running a new paint scheme this week, the YJ Stinger on her Stacker 2 Dodge for Bill Davis Racing. Brenda Eveling starting at the rear of the field, running the Hope for Life machine. It is a very nice paint scheme she's running for this race here today. And here we go. Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Michigan, the middle race of the round of 16. Vanko Seaman would be one of those drivers who would like to have a good run here today. Otherwise, he is heading into the next race at Indianapolis next week in a must-win situation, because next week is our first elimination race. And when the checker flag waves, sadly, 4 drivers are going to be eliminated from the playoffs. And the caution is out for the first time today, so that didn't take long. The spring race had no cautions. We've just had our first caution. Jacob TwoTwo will get a critical bonus point for leading a lap. And now the question is, were any of our playoff drivers involved? If they were, especially those below the cut lane, they could find themselves heading into next week's elimination race in a must-win situation. Zachary Taylor. It's been difficult. Just got himself in the top 30 in points. Was too late. Brittany White involved. And I don't see any of our playoff contenders involved. It might be just Zachary Taylor. There's the Irwin Ford I was just mentioning about Marty Stevens. A couple of our playoff drivers back here at the rear of the field. That's not where they need to be, if you ask me. So, caution's out for the first time today. Let's jump back and find out what happened to Zachary Taylor. In the early going, you're at Michigan. Well, this was going into turn number 1 on lap number 1, and looks like Brittany White kind of misjudged the Kodak Pontiac, and boom, into the wall, the 4 and the 1 car go. Fortunately, neither of them swept up any playoff contenders, which is a good thing. Brittany White, 26 in the points. Taylor, 28 in the points. A couple of non-playoff contenders got involved in this incident. And just like that, Zachary Taylor's day is done as the black smoke erupts on that Morgan McClure Pontiac. And Brittany White, not the season she would have liked, as that is a tough break for her as she was involved. So the yellow is out for the first time today. Let's jump to the restart here at Michigan. Green flag will come back in the air on lap number 6 of 30. Should give us a total of 26 laps of racing to go. Jacob TwoTwo, the leader and the highest of our playoff contender. Ben Erickson, second. Luke Knight, third. Fourth, Melissa Cooper. Fifth is Jerry Harvick. Sixth will be Annie Winters. Seventh, Brad Lewis. Eighth, Luigi Cadet. Ninth is Mia Watts. And 10th is Cody Smart. Zachary Taylor, the only driver out of the race. We mentioned where Taylor and Cody Smart are restarting. Let's find out where the rest of our 14 other playoff contenders. Samantha Grainger, 12th. Betty Barrett, 14th. Ben Tennyson, the points leader, 17th. Ashley Horton's running in 20th. As we look further down, Lena Aurora, 24th. Tom Montgomery, 25th. A Crenshaw, 27th. Ponzo Albanus in 30th. Josephine Bouvier, 31st. Hannah Smith, 32nd. Kevin Joseph, 35th. Vanko Seaman, 38th. I believe that is it for the playoff contenders, because none of them are out of the race. Only Zachary Taylor's out. Green flag back in the air. We're back underway. At least Jacob TwoTwo's got some bonus points that could help him get above the cut line. Oh, and Jerry Harvick's running in the top 5. I just forgot to mention that. But you know what I was talking about. Luke Knight, 23rd in the points. Ben Erickson has won this season, but like I said, was not high enough in points for his win to count to make the playoffs. Like to get his second win on the year just to finish what has been a difficult season for the Target machine. He will be back with Chip Ganassi Racing next season. Jerry Harvick, now the highest of our playoff contenders. Jerry Harvick came in this race 11 points above the cut line. If he can get a good run here today, he could find himself in a very good spot to possibly advance going into our first elimination race next week at Indianapolis. Luke Knight has taken the lead. Let's check the back of the field here. Brittany White off the pace. A couple of playoff drivers back here. Kevin Joseph, who came into the race at critical 12th position in the playoff, 2 points above the cut line. Vanko Seaman's back here at the rear of the field. Seaman needs a good run today, or he could find himself heading into Indianapolis in a must-win situation, because he came this race 13 points below the cut line. And if Seaman doesn't have a good result, could we talk about Vanko Seaman being in a must-win situation next week? Hannah Smith not doing any better. She was 22 points above the cut line. We'll have to see where this is going to situate her. Crenshaw's back here. Had a nice, good race at Chicagoland. Not having a good run here today. She's back, by the way, in the regular Miller Lite colors, because I had to find her regular Miller Lite colors, which is good to see it back on the field. She was running the Rusty Wallace 600 star, but I got the Miller Lite colors back on it without the 600 logo, so yay. Ben Tennyson, 27, comes to this race, the points leader, 40 points above the cut line. Going to put him in a predictor. Going to put him in an interesting situation. We could have ourselves a doozy of an elimination race next week. Tom Montgomery running in 18th. There's Betty Barrett going to run the rest of the season in the 1-800 call AT&T Dodge for BAM Racing. Monica Towns having a good run. There's Cody Smart, Jacob TwoTwo. Cody Smart came as race 15 points above the cut line. Jacob TwoTwo came as race 2 points below the cut line, and with where they're running, Jacob TwoTwo is going to be above the cut line according to my live points. Cody Smart could actually put himself in a very interesting situation going into Indianapolis next week. There's Margaret Jacobs, who was eliminated from making the playoffs. She's 31st in the points. And Luigi Cadet, currently the race leader. Luigi Cadet will be moving over to the... I think Luigi is going to move over to join possibly Chip Ganassi Racing because he's going to be at Dodge next year. Going to be interesting to see how he will do in the 42. He will be replacing Mia Watts. There's Brad Lewis, who got involved in a wreck last week at Chicagoland. Brad Lewis fell all the way down to 37th in the points. Of course, he has been the victory lane, but was, like I said, not high enough in points to have his win count for a spot in the playoffs. And Margaret Jacobs, who has been consistent inside the top 10 in the regular season, did not get a win to get herself into the playoffs. Of course, she comes in this race 31st in the points. We'll see if next season will be a little bit better for her. We will see her girlfriend Maisie Creighton and the other 35 Truck Series drivers when we head to our next race, which will be Indianapolis next week. Of course, Trucks and Busch, it will be the middle race of the round of 10 and 12 respectively. And then, like I said, for the Cup Series, it'll be the first elimination race. But should note for Jacob TwoTwo, Cody Smart, that are up here at the front, if they go to victory lane today, regardless what happens at Indianapolis, that will punch their ticket into the round of 12, where they could have 5 valuable playoff points. That could be the difference between moving on to the next round next week or being one of the 4 drivers eliminated from the playoffs next week, which, by the way, we will be saying goodbye to 4 drivers eliminated. Let's see where Samantha Grainger is running. She's running in 17th. Came in this race 3 points below the cut line. Going to be interesting to see where this is going to situate her after this race here today, as Luigi Cadet's going to go for the race lead. Cody Smart, who was above the cut line, this could put him, like I said, not necessarily in a advance to the next round unless he wins this race, but put him in a good gap where if he can have a good result, I think he'll be in the elite. He'll be in the round of 12. Kevin Joseph, 2 points below the cut line. Right now, the lowest of our playoff drivers. They're about to lap Brittany White, who will be back with DEI next season. Hannah Smith was above the cut line. So this can make the elimination race very interesting with where I'm seeing with all these drivers running where in points. Really going to make this elimination race interesting at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, we are going to Indianapolis, but we're going to do separate tracks. We're going to a short track for Trucks and Busch, and then the Brickyard 400 that everybody is famous for. The thing is, for the Brickyard 400, not only it's one of the crown jewel events in this series, it's also going to be a very interesting elimination race next week. Right now, J Harvick is the highest of the playoff contenders. Of course, he was 11 points above the cut line. He is currently 5th. So right now, he would put himself in a very good position to possibly advance into the round of 12. Unless he ends up winning this race, then he won't have to worry about trying to advance into the round of 12 if he does win. Because remember, if any of our 16 drivers go to victory lane here today, or next week's elimination race, doesn't matter what happens, if they're below the cut line or not, they are going to the round of 12, regardless of next week. And looky here, Brittany White going to get in the way, hold up her teammate Margaret Jacobs. I know she's not trying to do this intentionally, but she knows the 8 was coming, so Brittany moving up high. Of course, remember, Brittany was involved in the lap 1 incident with Zachary Taylor, who has been checked and released from the medical center. And that's, by the way, our only slow car of the days. We're inside of 10 to go. Brad Lewis looking for his second win of the year. Mia Watts looking for her first win. Mia Watts will not be back in that 42 next season. Betty Johnson is actually, originally she was going to run she's going to move to the 43. I'm sorry, I was trying to make sure I didn't derp. Yeah, so Betty Johnson will move over, will be sponsored by Aussie. Even though it'll have a Nextel Cup logo, it will still be a Winston Cup logo nevertheless. Annie Thomas, of course, will be moving over to Audi next season, as Audi will make its debut into the, quote, Winston Cup Series. It'll probably be the NASCAR Winston Cup Series because of the PCSRA departure after this season. Tatum Wright up there in the top 4. Tatum Wright, 19th in the points, did not make the playoffs. She is the 3rd highest of the drivers who didn't make the playoffs. She will be running an updated Net Zero car next season. Ashton Wright will see her in the Truck Series next season. For what ride, we don't yet know. Winston Cup will have go or go home qualifying sessions. Down the 5 to go. Ponzo Albanus up here at the front. Ponzo came into this race 8 points above the cut line. He is, of course, up here at the front. J TwoTwo and Cody Smart been fading back recently. I see Betty Barrett's up here. J TwoTwo going to go to the inside of Jerry Harvick, but doesn't realize Monica Towns is right next to the red GM Goodwrench Chevy. And we could have some drivers that were above the cut line going to be right near or below the cut line. Don't know about Vanco Seaman. I think he's going to need some help there, as you see the pink and black machine of Annie Thomas. She'll be running that car for the rest of the year. There's Samantha Grainger 3 points below the cut line. Jacob TwoTwo continuing to fade. I believe he was the only playoff driver that led today, as he's continuing to drop back through the field. So we're going to have to see where Jacob TwoTwo is going to be situated after this race, as we're down to 3 laps of racing to go here at Michigan. The next time we'll have Busch and Trucks off again will be the middle race of the round of 12, which will have Winston Cup, as they're going to head to Lime Rock Park, which will set us up for our Kansas elimination weekend. Two to go. "38 drivers on the lead lap, 39 still in the race. And Zachary Taylor, our only driver out of the race after the only caution we had back at lap number 1. But we ran the rest of this race clean and green ever since we went back to green. Looks like pit stops were not a factor today, but they will be a factor when we have our elimination race at Indianapolis, as the white flag is out for Margaret Jacobs. One more lap to go, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Been a struggling season for Margaret Jacobs. Needed a win to build confidence. Luigi Cadet looking to the inside, just cannot get the drive off the corner. I think that might have just done it. Second win of the year for DEI. First one with Margaret Jacobs, as she's side by side with Luigi Cadet. Battle of the line. Who got it? It's Cadet. We thought it was going to be Margaret Jacobs, but Luigi Cadet is going to win the Firekeepers Casino 400. Oh, I thought Margaret Jacobs had it, but she made one mistake, came up 1,000 short. And we go 2 for 2 with a playoff win. First win for the second win for the Petties, first win for Luigi Cadet. And we'll see where he's going to be in the series next year. Hopefully in a competitive ride. Margaret Jacobs will come away with second. Brad Lewis third, Mia Watts fourth, Tatum Wright fifth. Hanzo Albanus, the highest playoff contender, in sixth, was a total of 8 points above the cut line. We'll see where this is going to situate him heading into next week at Indianapolis. Cody Smart bounced back in seventh, Matty Crenshaw eighth, Marty Stevens ninth, and Luke Knight will complete the top 10. We only had 2 of our 16 playoff contenders inside the top 10. Where did the remaining 14 finish? Let's look here real closely. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Ashley Horton came home in 14th. Horton came into this race 3 points above the cut line. We'll have to see where this is going to situate her. Jacob TwoTwo, 16th, 2 points below the cut line. The good news is he finished ahead of a number of drivers who didn't have good results here today, so he'll be in an interesting situation. At Hannah Smith, 22 above 17th. Jerry Harvick came his race 11 points above the cut line, came home in 18th. Vanco Seaman 19th. Todd Montgomery 20th. Montgomery was 29 above the cut line. Where will this situate him? Samantha Grainger 22nd, 3 points below the cut line. Where will this situate her going into Indianapolis? Bouvier 25th. Betty Barrett 26th. Barrett was 7 points below the cut line. Bouvier was 7 above the cut line. Then you go on down to the rest of the finishing results. This is where some of the question marks are going to come into play as far as that's concerned. Ben Tennyson, 40 points above the cut line, was the points leader. Annie Crenshaw, 34th, came his race second in points. Lane Aurora, 32nd. She was 21 above the cut line. Kevin Joseph, 37th. Ashley Reynolds, 38. She was the lowest of the playoff contenders and the last car to finish on the lead lap. So we may have a very interesting elimination race next week. Brittany White, the only car a lap down, and Zachary Taylor, the only driver out of the race from our only caution of the day. So I have a very good suspicious feeling we're going to have ourselves a very interesting elimination race next week at the Yard of Bricks of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And of course, we have IRP for Trucks and Busch, their second race of the first round. And then after next week's race, we'll have our first elimination race for the Winston Cup Series, which means 16 will become 12, as 4 drivers will sadly kiss their playoff hopes goodbye. But that's going to do it for Michigan. Congratulations to Luigi Cadet on a struggling season, finally getting his first win of the year. If you enjoyed today's race, be sure to give this video a like. Subscribe to become part of the PCSRA crew today. We share your full finish results. Your points and playoff points are down in the description heading into Indianapolis next week. After Indianapolis, we'll have 4 drivers eliminated, and then we'll have our first elimination race for Trucks and Busch, and our first race of the second round for the Cup Series. All 3 series are actually going to head to Pocono, which will be very interesting to see. We'll see you guys in Indy. Until then, I'm D DeVille signing off. You've been watching another broadcast of PCSRA TV, where champions are made since 2010 and 15 years as the best center racing around the world since 2017. See you next week from Indianapolis.